Recording in progress.
Make the motion, we approve the regular meeting minutes of November 8th.
Second. Any further on those? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make the motion, we approve the non-public meeting minutes 1, 2, and 3 for November 8th.
Second. Anything further? All in favor?
Aye. Make the motion, we approve the special meeting minutes of November 17th.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. Make the motion, we approve the non-public meeting minutes of November 17th.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. Make the motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second. Have anything to add to that?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
On the minutes, before we get into public input, I recommend we unseal the 11/17 minutes and the minutes number 1 and 3 from 11/8. The circumstances for which we sealed them are no longer, the information is public, so I recommend we unseal those minutes.
So move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Mike, do you have anything before we go into public input
Yeah,
on Ken's status?
Just wanted to mention, folks will notice that Chairman Colby is not here, so he had a pretty significant fall before Thanksgiving, so he has been in the hospital, but I'll wish him well and understand he's on the road to recovery, but I just wanted to mention that that is why he's not here.
Thank you. Public input.
Hi,
Marcy.
Marcy.
I'm Marcy Jarzik from 17 Waters Edge Road in North
I
Swanzey.
don't know if you want to come up and join us, I don't know if they're gonna be able to hear you from there, Marcy. Since you got elected spokesperson, you get to join us up here.
Can my posse come with me?
We can sit in the front row.
Well, again, I'm Marcy Jarzik from 17 Waters Edge Road in North Swanzey. I'm here to ask a few questions regarding the water level of Wilson Pond and to see if there's any updates as to when it will be drawn down.
I was wondering that myself when I drove by this morning. So interesting that you should bring that in.
And I just, we're all concerned as an ongoing notation that there's docks that are in the water that normally are not in the water at this time. And if anybody has any insight as to what the problem is.
I understand from the DPW director that we're at the normal winter drawdown level in terms of board, so the only answer I can speculate is that it's water coming in from Upper Wilson that's keeping it from going below.
And why is the diversion dam not working? The diversion dam is in place to help when the situation such as this arises, to stop the water from coming out of that river down to our pond. And making the boards that are taken out do their job. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and somebody back here might be able to concur, I believe there's still one more board that could come out. Does anybody?
Yeah, so, Mark Slater, so we were running at 5.5 boards this year, down half a board from previous levels, and that was determined to be a better level. Usually when we draw down, for winter, we take all but one board out, and that's what we're told is the case. It doesn't seem like it, right? You know, if we're doing the same thing, why are we not seeing the same results? We have not had a lot of rain to make up for what we're seeing out there. I mean, I was away for 4 days, and I come back and the water's even higher. And as Marcy said, there's a lot of docks, people, built their docks, designed their docks based on an expected water level, and the water level is up by probably 16 inches. It's excessive. So there are cases where we've taken out half board out, and Joe doesn't like to do it because there's a good chance of the rack collapsing. But we're really at a pretty extreme level here at this point, and you see a nice on the pond every morning. So, I don't know what the solution is. First, I would verify that all the one board is in, because maybe there's a mistake. so no. And if not, you have to consider taking out that four now.
Discuss it, I guess, with Joe Russo and find out something for next meeting.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, thank you.
So Mark, you're saying that normally it would be down to one board, so your expectation is it's down to one board now?
And that's what we're told, that there's only one board in, right? But the water level is still probably a little bit 60 inches above what would be normal winter level. You know, I live on Lake Street, I have an island there, I can, at this point, I should be able to walk over to that island. I can't even come close to doing that.
And, you know, we take some of our dock out in the winter, but it leaves, the section we leave in is, we took it out because previous years it's been related to the dock. So when the ice forms and melts and forms again, the water goes in and out of the shore and pulls the dock with it. So a lot of us have had damage to our docks on the pond. So some of us take the dock out, but it's not gonna do any good if I've got one section left. If that's in the water too, that's gonna get affected this one. Normally it's dry. And it's not, there's about this much more water on the shore than there usually is.
There's probably over a dozen docks that are normally safe, that if the water level stays where it is, within 6 inches down from it, will be damaged this year. And once that ice freezes and starts getting that shift, yes, nothing stops it. So. And it's something that we've been, addressing for quite some time, right? I think that happened. We've got emails and you and I still can move on. I don't know what the solution is. It's definitely higher than happening.
So if there's normally one board and there is one board, let's say there is, what would prevent the water level from going down to where it normally would be with one board?
Yeah, it's got to be a flow coming in. A couple of years ago, now, I guess when I was moving to the area, I know they ripped the gut out of the Virgin Dam, so it's pretty much free flowing. And that blocks it is debris. In the summer we want the flow. When we draw the water down, we reduce the flow. We have no control over that.
And Bill, I'm not even sure that's what's going on. When you look at the water going in the culvert, going over 12 there, and it doesn't look like it's excessive. It doesn't look like it's extra water. So I'm not sure that's what's going on. So that's why we think maybe there's something wrong with the board or something in the dam, because it doesn't look like we're getting a lot of water.
Ron Parent, 15 Future Point, up in Swanzey. Historically, I walk around that pond a lot, and I've been living on the pond for 11 years, and every year there are 5 boards out and 5 boards back in, and right now there are only 4 boards sitting on that deck. I mean, it's been that way every year. I've been coming to that pond since I was 17, way back in 62. But anyway, that long time ago. But anyway, it's a real problem. I mean, I had $500 worth of damage done to my dock last year because of the ice pulled it out. And it's going to happen again. It's all up I could walk. We always, every fall and every spring, we rake our beach areas. We walk along 32 and pick up all the beer bottles and cans that are thrown from the car. You can't, it's impossible. I show no beach at all, just water right out. And it's not only right now, it's in the summer. We're getting erosion. That pond's going up and it's going down to the set level. And if you went to the boat landing or the beach area, you look at what land is left there and how much has eroded in the last 2 or 3 years because of this up and down action that we're getting on the pond now. And I think it goes back to what Mark said, that if you go up and look at that diversion dam, all the gears are gone, everything is gone out of, that used to be a gear driven like guillotine that goes up and down to stop the water. There's nothing there anymore. I think Joe, a couple of years ago, I think didn't he try to stick a couple, 2x6s down in the bottom there, but it didn't work.
We'll look into it.
So what did you mean by 5 boards?
There is
5
2x8s
boards,
and 2x6s, I'm not sure what there are, that hold the water level at a certain level that we want it. In the summertime now, we're at 5.5, is that correct? The half board brought it up a little bit for voting and whatever. But you take the 5 boards out, and it goes down to a certain level. I mean,
But this year it's not going down.
no, there's only 4 boards sitting there.
One more
So I
board.
believe, unless they took one board with them, or one board broke, or, I don't know, I don't.
So the boards are set aside?
The boards are sitting.
Yeah, they just set them on top for, put them in next spring, it's just,
And it could be that there's a half board is there still, but who knows? I mean,
No, the full, it's gotta be a full board,
Well, they
because
could-
there's 6 boards altogether, plus a half board.
They took the 6 board out, put a half board in, so that 6 board back, and then they removed the half board as well, and then there should be 4 others.
So these 4 others, they're set aside? I'm just trying to figure out where
Five
they're
and a
at.
half boards there, we're only counting 4 and a half. We don't know if, if they're just removing them and putting them there should be another board there.
So there's a possibility there's no boards.
I'm not sure.
no, I think that there's 4.5 visible, and that means there are 2 missing. So that they're either in the pond, or one of them has been taken somewhere for repair. That's a guess, but
So we could have 1 board, 2 boards, or no boards.
No, we have either 1 or 2 in the end.
there's at least 1 in there, because otherwise, the level.
But wouldn't it be down anyway?
Normally, there's 1 board in, normally there's 1 board in over the window. So we're seeing higher, that board is at least that 1 board is there. There might be more there. That's the reason.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thanks. I've never seen it. I've seen the one on Swanzey Lake, so I have a visual, but don't really get confused. So yes, I will. Thank you. When's our next meeting?
The calendar is on the agenda later, but I think we suggested next week.
Okay. So we'll be prepared for next week, if not sooner.
I don't think we have
Your entourage.
these guys.
Thank you. Anything else?
There is also there's a fence there that's in that board area that's fallen down there.
Yeah, we're working on getting that.
Waiting for the water to go down and fix it.
better get your inputs.
Anybody online? Public input?
Jane Johnson?
No hand raised? Okay, we'll move along to Capital Improvement Plan Committee Chair Steve Bittel.
And Heather brought over, I printed some, Stephen sent over some updated stuff tomorrow. I thought it was only 1 section, but I guess there was more info, so it was out, I emailed out earlier if you saw it, but first few pages.
The first 2 real plans.
Okay, if you turn, I don't know what you have.
Rise
On the
1128.
full report, it would be page 2. The capital budget year over year.
So page 22 in the packet.
This compares the current year to the proposed budget year and shows the difference. And it shows the difference by department as well as individual account. And it comes out to $101,000 increase for the coming budget year, or approximately a 10% increase. So if you turn to the next page, we can look at what this means. First thing is, each year we have one-off items Last year, we had 150,000 going into the new fire station. Actually, we had a total of 300, but 150 was coming from undesignated funds, not part of this budget. So we had a one-time item last year of 150 that we don't have this year. We also have suggested appropriating 80,000 for Mount Caesar Union Library. So in effect, we've increased the real budget difference on a recurring basis, which is what we need to run the town on a cash basis year over year, by a walloping 171,000 bucks, or 17%. When you lay on top of that increased debt service, it becomes an increase year over year of approximately 280,000. And baked into the pie by the virtue of timing of bonds, and I repeat, baked into the pie, is another 263,000 coming in 2025. Alarming numbers. Moving down to major increases, I attempted to group them in what I saw the underlying causes as. The biggest and the largest is $80,000, which is simply inflation numbers for our major equipment in town: DPW, police, and fire. There are no new vehicles being added or anything like that. It's just the cost of these things is going off the roof when we can get them, and we can't always get them. I know the chiefs had problems getting cruisers. DPW's had problems getting trucks. And the fire truck is an ongoing issue. But these are the non-bonding fire trucks, the smaller stuff. And anybody who's bought a pickup lately knows what's happened to pickup prices. So it's $80,000, pretty much as nearly as I can look at it, simple in inflation. The other difference is a timing difference. In the past, we've used two revolving funds for capital items. One for recreation, which we have eliminated this year due to the long overdue rebuild, for recycling, I mean. And the other for recreation, which I'll deal with in another minute. But we had thought and got lulled into the feeling that they were running a surplus from their programs during the summer. And in fact, they haven't been for the past couple of years. And what had happened was we didn't draw down from that fund for several years. So it became quite large, well over $100,000. And we were living fat and happy on that for a while. Well, that party's over. In my comment section, and I can address it now, I think one, we have to look at recreation's budget very carefully in the out years. They're planning on spending as much as $600,000 on brownfield, which is a lot of money for a baseball tournament. I think that it has to go under more scrutiny for both getting more revenue in to offset costs and to look at long-term planning. Brownfield is an important asset, but there are certain finite limits as to how much one can spend. And of course, they should look at grants too, an important point. So by operation of recycling funds coming off, it's up another 75,000. We have a special item, more or less, which is the Denman-Thompson, the steel bridge redecking, and we've got a reserve funds for that, as we're pretty much alone by ourselves at that redecking cost. No state funds, no grant funds. And then the other net stuff in there. So that's pretty much what's happened on a cash basis. We'll go into bonds in a minute, but that's pretty well the push and pull of the budget. Any questions on that? It's not a pretty picture, but I think it's pretty accurate as to what's going on underneath the numbers.
One question relates to Denman Thompson, Steve. I understand we might be getting some one-time state aid focused on bridge repairs. If that were to come through, would you want us to offset and reduce that amount so we can lower the?
It would be very nice.
Okay, that's what I figured.
Assuming we don't have another bridge.
Right.
And it's always something.
I haven't gotten an amount yet, but I think it should be more than that amount, so.
It would be helpful. On other observation, as I mentioned, recreation needs some work, which Michael and I have talked about as to revenues and whatnot. And it's hard to get a good feel for recreation until the whole process of the summer program sugars out and all the bills come in, which is generally right about now. So it's lagging, which means during the summer, you really can't tell a whole lot. It's got to sugar out at the end.
Well, and the worst numbers were a result of actually success of hiring and retaining more staff this year, which obviously has a cost to it, so.
And to be commended for getting
Right,
it.
exactly. So.
Not an easy thing. Recycling has some big ticket items on down the road, mainly balers. We've upped them a couple times, and their revolving fund has come off, so we've got to self-fund for it now. And we've indicated a number for them of $65,000 per year going into their capital equipment reserve. They have a lot of equipment there, not as much as DPW, probably comparable to police. And we have to let some time go to see what the right number will be. For the horizontal baler, which is over 100,000, I think, is one item that sort of sticks out. And I think next year we have to look at that more carefully. Fire, building, and equipment. We have 2 warrant articles coming up, we think, this coming year, one for the fire station, one to replace engine number 2, which is the one that we patched up and got our 3 years out of, and now it's time to do a new one. And after that, when we get to bonds, we need to replace the ladder truck at some point, and we're going to need another engine at some point. 2 huge ticket items. Given what's happened in Swanzey, which is very good news to, at least economically, not to everybody's personal liking, but we have a lot of higher rise apartments coming in, and we're going to have a good bump in our population and our tax bases, a huge bump. But we're going to need fire apparatus for that. And it's just a word of caution. I realize how difficult it has been to get fire warrant articles passed. It's, I view, an essential item now, and we have to somehow get behind these things and replace this equipment, if nothing else, to maintain our ISO rating. Sidewalks are still a work in progress that Michael and I talk about, and sorting out the grants and how much it will cost. But it's still a work in progress, and I don't think we really have our sea legs as to how the funding's going to come out for them. And I've read recently along Route 10. It's proposed to build a sidewalk down to Market Basket, and that's not on our radar yet. But it's not on anybody's radar yet, but it's one more thing that's coming. As I mentioned, warrant articles, this year fire station engine #1. Road rehab disappointingly has to resort to a form of bonding, or actually borrowing. Michael's worked out a low-cost source for a loan there, but I'm disappointed that we had to return to borrowing for roads to get our big bond deal, thinking that we could go from that point on. At some point, we're going to have to hit a hard ceiling on road work with other things. FEMA grants, I understand, I just noted in passing, are still undecided and up in the air, the percentage, and
Correct.
and that could have major impacts on all aspects of the town's budget. New debt is at elevated levels. Before I turn to new debt, any questions? The next page simply has the cash budget stretched out over 7 years. This year plus the 6 budget, which are mandated by the statutes. They're pretty level. But inflation will, if it continues at the present elevated level, will have some impact on that. The action is in debt service. And as you recall, CIPC looks at the total town obligation for capital projects as cash into the reserve funds plus debt service on our debt, because that's what hits the tax bill. Debt service, if you look down at the next page, it goes a total for total capex, debt service capex, and capital expenditures, increases dramatically. In fact, it doubles, more than doubles within a 2-year period. We don't have much debt running off. The police station will be paid off in 2 years, and beyond that, there's not much coming off in debt service on the capital side. Happily, I believe in 3.5 years, the TIF district debt will be paid off, which will be a bonanza for the town. But shouldn't have any impact on capital projects. That's a sizable increase. And when you look at the proposed debt service, there really isn't anything that you can say we don't need. It's all there, and with elevated interest rates, it's going to cost us more. I'm not sure where interest rates will go next year. It's a matter that a lot of people bet a lot of money on. I think they'll be pretty steady, and they might even tail off a bit. But they're a heck of a lot more than they were. They're going to be probably double what we were used to paying. And I go through on the page after that the detailed assumptions as to debt service, term, and rates. You'll notice that rates are approximately double what they were a couple of years ago. The page after that, labeled macro analysis, simply shows where the new debt is being incurred. And one is critical building improvements or new in the case of the fire station. And I note that these are placeholder only. It's fire station 2, the DPW shed, which has to happen, and the forever promise never delivered town hall. And the other is roads, the inclusion to complete out North Winchester and California. Fire is, as I mentioned, engine 2, then ladder 1, then engine 1. Possibly engine 1 can be stretched out. I think engine 2, we're there with. The ladder might get 1 more year, but, you know, we'll be playing with fire after that, no pun intended. The self-contained breathing apparatus is just a given. So there's not a lot of latitude there that I see. And that's the picture.
Questions, comments from the committee members here?
Steve, I missed it during our meetings, but engine 2, is there a reason why it's on that schedule now and can't be pushed out?
It possibly could get pushed out 1 more year. The thinking was you had to authorize it in advance if you want to buy a used piece of equipment. And so to get the warrant up, you don't have to pull the trigger. But otherwise, if it breaks, we're in a very bad spot. And it is limping, and probably we could get 1 more year out of it. But everybody felt on the committee that you might as well get the warrant article out there, because when you go shopping for used hardware, it's a hit or miss thing. It's on the market now, but it's not going to be on the market much longer. If you order new, there's as much as an 18-month delay. And new would be detrimental to our budget in the extreme. And the idea of buying a combined fire engine or pumper and heavy rescue eliminates 1 whole vehicle from the department, which I think is a brilliant idea. So that's where it comes down. Can it wait a year? Yeah, probably. Should it? No. But
I understand it. So, 2001 engine and a 2000 rescue, so trying to replace it with 1 truck.
yeah,
And then there's the issue of if it is stationed in station 2 and we don't have a station 2 that can fit the new truck, or take something else then.
oh, the webs we weave. And then maybe town hall can get done. Anything else? I'd like to thank all the help I got from the town staff and the committee.
That's it. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you,
Bruce.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Thank you.
Police Chief Joe Gonsalves.
Evening.
Evening.
Yes, user-friendly.
So basically, there's no change at all as far as the budget's concerned. It's pretty status quo. I don't know if you have any questions.
Looks pretty lean.
Wish I was lean.
By my measure, you sure are.
So are you doing something different with recruitment, or is that just because of the hiring bonus?
I think we relocated the hiring bonus. That's the reason why it's much different than it is previous year.
Yeah, that would be if we had to pay off a contract, I believe that's where we posted it. So if we just did the normal bonuses, it would be in the hiring incentive program, but if we had to pay off someone's contract with their existing town, it would be paid out of there.
Okay.
How are we doing with recruitment?
We just started. It's kind of a, well, officially restarted.
Restarted.
Nice ad in today's paper or something.
Yes, so we've got a couple of applications. We have someone who's interested in part-time, who's certified. I'm hoping that pans out. That would be a great addition. So we'll work hard on that, see if that, we can make that happen.
We were back to fully staffed basically briefly, which is why, because when you say start, I don't want them, something we discussed recently, so I just wanted to make sure that it's not like we talked about it 6 months ago and you're just starting and kind of is being resumed, right?
Yes, I mean, you always have to be recruiting, in my perspective, constantly, because you never know when someone's going to retire or leave, whatever purpose. So you always like to put your name brand out there to attract people when there is a viable opening, which we have in the very near future. So, but we're actively recruiting now, so.
Yeah, Edna, Chief, and Julius worked on getting it posted wide berth. Edna was looking at a lot of veteran-focused hiring websites. We did the New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts municipal associations, so local newspapers. So they're trying to cast a wide net.
Are you finding other communities with substantial signing bonuses?
Yes, they do.
So what are we competing against?
I think a lot of communities are offering 10,000.
It's 130,000.
They're up there. I think the more common ones you'll find would be 10,000, but there are those that go above 10,000. Especially a certified officer. Those are tough to come by.
Do you foresee that we'll need to be in that realm?
It'd be nice to be in the 10,000 range, so we're kind of in the medium, so to speak, not in the lower portion. I really like to bring out people who want to be here. They're not here for the money. But those are few and hard to find. So
Part of the challenge can be also you get the incentives really high, and then your existing employees say, well, I'm already here, and so what are you doing for me? So it is a little bit of that balance too.
sure. You have a lot of loyal employees, so we're very fortunate.
Sure. But so far, we haven't had to delve into that to any great degree. Is that me? No. To any great degree.
Delve into
The hiring bonus at that level.
We've had success. I mean, we've had full manning, which is a blessing. I don't think you find any other agencies that are fully manned. That doesn't happen nowadays. So we've been very fortunate in that respect. But you never know, we can come across hard times if we lose another officer. So it's tough to replace. We hired an officer this summer. He's going to the police academy in January. He won't graduate the police academy until April. And then he has a little FTO to finish. So it takes a long time to bring someone on. To lose someone in a few weeks, a month, to replace them in several months to a year.
Sure. And how are we coming with interior repairs?
We haven't really moved forward in that. Highway department's busy, so I think in the next month or so, should have some time. They can come on in and do some minor repairs.
Should be good winter work.
We did have a couple of issues with the fire alarm. That's gonna need to be addressed in the near future. They replaced all the older alarms in the front of the building. That was rather expensive, not a foreseen expense. We had a plumbing issue with the water, a pipe pin burst that had to be fixed. That was an expense we weren't anticipating. And we also had a repeater go down because of the storm, and that was very costly.
Are the fire alarm repairs budgeted for here?
We'd like to put that into the building maintenance, because those things can be reoccurring. So,
But we're covered for it.
well, we made up for it. I mean, it went over the line item, because we weren't expecting that cost. It was substantial. They came back 3 or 4 times, try to decipher what was the issue with this recurring alarm. And there could be more issues or problems with it. So it needs to be looked at.
So who schedules that? Is that, do you work that, or does Mike Jasmine work that?
I pretty much cover everything.
So you'll get that taken care of.
As long as there's funding for it.
So but is the funding in the budget, or is it in?
Well, we can take advantage of it early in the budget, so there'll be money there. But we don't know if something else could happen down the road later in the year. Hopefully not. You may get by 2 years and no major items, and then all of a sudden you get hit with a few.
Sure. Michael, do we have money in a reserve for that?
Well, do we know how much we're talking about?
Well,
There's not it's not the largest reserve because the building was obviously rehabbed to some degree, within not too distant future, so it's not a huge reserve.
plumbing was well over $400, actually over $600. And
No, but it sounds like you're talking about future work, right? So do we have an estimate of what that future work would cost?
no, I don't have an estimate of the future work. I mean, it's like anything else, how much money do you want to spend?
Not much.
I know, but it can be very costly, so it needs work.
Can we get a handle on that fairly soon?
Yes, sir.
How's the new Tahoe doing?
Beautiful.
Think it's gonna work out?
It's
Is it
great.
better than the Floridas and
Much better.
interceptors? Are they more readily available, or?
They're available. And then again, you never know. The auto industry, as you well know, you can't really anticipate everything that's gonna happen. So, for example, Ford PIU went up $9,000 in 1 year. Who was expecting that? I certainly wasn't. So you never know. Finding parts now for Fords is difficult. The 2 newer vehicles have recalls. It's a simple fix for the most part, but they don't have the parts. And when you call and ask them about it, call us back in the spring, or we'll get back to you in the spring about it. So it's very dicey.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's not hugely significant, but just something to mention on the sub-budget for the regional prosecutors service that we utilize through the county, that's seeing an increase due to the expiration of the felonies first program, which hopefully you could explain better than I could, but just to note, it's on the back of the second page down below, but it's a little more than the normal, 3 to 5% increase, so I thought it was worth pointing out.
I mean, they're having difficulties with manpower also. So they've pushed down more work towards the police departments to do. So they don't have to do some of the mundane issues and items that they have to handle. So we're kind of doing some of that work. But it's like anything else, everything's going up in price. It's difficult to pay people prices that they want to get paid.
we're finding that.
Yes, indeed.
So the $20,000 increase in that line item is just for the prosecution services, or is it what you're having to pay our staff to do the work?
No prosecution.
Okay. And we're spending more of our
And
resources.
we're spending more of our resources to do some of their work that they can't do because we don't have the personnel to do it.
You wanted good news, Michael?
It's still cheaper than hiring your own prosecutor, so.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Thank you.
Have a good night.
David Hickling. Gina. How are you?
Good. I'm used to this cold.
Good job.
Sure.
Driving over here, taking a hold of weather, and I said, if we have the same weather in 2 months, we'll talk about what nice day it is.
Right.
At least the sun's out, right?
It's all perspective, right? So, what I was gonna talk to you about, I've been here a couple times, I think, talking about this proposal. For the Business Aviation Group and a subsidiary company they have to do a market study and then market and try to attract business to the developed airport. So when I met this company at a conference and they gave a presentation on developing landed airports, and realized that this might be the person we want to bring on board. This company, they specialize, that's all they do, is they look at property at airports that need to be developed, and then they've got connections with all these aviation businesses in the industry, and they try to connect them. When I brought it forward before, there was some concerns in the proposal, and we were able to set up a virtual meeting with Michael and the city manager from Keene, myself, and consultants, and go through the proposals. It was pretty enlightening, I think, because just having them explain the proposals, at least to me, it looked like there was a lot more that we were going to get out of the product than what I actually read in the proposal. And on the first one I have here with the group consulting, on the back is their Appendix A, which really breaks down what the deliverables are in that part. So the market feasibility study is basically going to look at what our market has, what our opportunities are, what our challenges are, and then also look at competitive airports and the same thing there. And they're going to, with that information, they're going to decide whether they would move forward if we chose to do the marketing, if they figure we have a product to market. Looking at it generally, to begin with, we did our land use study, shared that with them, and they were pretty positive looking at that, saying we do have some good stuff there. So one of the things that I believe Michael brought up in that discussion was there was something in the proposal about other reimbursables if they had to travel or something like that, that there could be additional fees. After that meeting, they agreed that anything that they did would have to be approved by us. They wouldn't be able to just do that and bill us, so we would have to pre-approve it before they could do that. So there'd be no surprise charges on that. I believe that was the only question we had on this part of the proposal. We did also discuss how the payment would work if we were splitting that between Keene and Swanzey. There'd be two payments, a down payment and then another payment at the end of the product. What we've discussed is either the city of Keene would pay one and Swanzey would pay the other. Either way, we pay the same amount. One would just pay the down payment, one would pay the fee at the end, which was acceptable to them.
And I would think if we wanted to proceed, I would recommend we do the down payment now, because we have most of the funds available in the Economic Development Advisory Committee budget that's going to go unspent, so that way we wouldn't have to add it into our budget for next year. And it's in the middle of their fiscal year, so they don't care, because there's a July to June fiscal year.
I have that in my budget, so we can move forward with that pretty quick. I really think that document, whether it came out positive for us to be able to move forward with the brokerage part or otherwise, is going to be a lot of valuable information that we can use if we try to market ourselves or going out to someone else.
Is it possible, David, after the market analysis, they would say, we don't think your airport is worth,
I think that's their whole purpose, is they don't want to get into the brokerage part of it.
right?
They don't really know. Plus, it might be preliminary work for them to know how they're going to market it. I think that's a big part of it, is they're going to say, okay, we're going to look at it, so now we know where to focus, and what our challenges are, what our strengths are. But I think there is that possibility. I don't think it's a strong possibility. I think we've got very marketable parcels there.
How long does something like this take?
Was it a 2-year project?
Was that for this study, or was that the marketing?
That was the market.
That was the actual marketing.
I'll have to look. Actually, Michael's got the actual proposals to what the original, I think we talked about that. It was over 3 months.
Yeah, I think it was something like, have it in here too. I don't know if it had it, do you guys, do you remember if you, did it have a schedule in there? Did you know this? What we proposed? Yeah, I don't see where it says, but 3 months sounds right.
Yeah, that's all right. That was for the study, and then I think it was a 24 months. So, and that's the second part, Aviation Property Network, and actually a subsidiary of Business Aviation Group, so we kind of work together. They do the market and tenant procurements. And again, this is the part that really impressed me, is their opening statement has extensive real estate knowledge and experience, and leading aviation real estate provider in the niche market. So most of that, I think that what we were really focused on there, which was a big hurdle, I think, or maybe even a wall that we didn't want to get through, both the city of Keene and the town of Swanzey, was the how long the percentage of revenue from the lease would, they had in their proposal that it was any extensions or renewals, which could be a long time. So talking to them about that, they agreed and said that their payments would only be for the initial term, which would be looking at 20 years. So we would probably do a 20-year term with a 20-year renewal option. So it would only be for the first 20 years, which that was probably a no-go with both the city of Keene and the town of Swanzey, and they amended that in their proposal.
And that would be paid more or less upon signing, right? It's not, we wouldn't make the payments over 20 years.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, one was on, there's 2 parts to it. One was on actually collecting lease revenue, and one is on signing agreement. So pretty much the same thing.
I put in here, I don't know if the board saw it, but just, I'd use like one of the CNS hangers as just like an example, and kind of look, because it had an assessment, it had a square footage, and it, looking at a profit of over 80,000 over the 20 years, even just on the, I think that was just on the town portion of the tax rate. So you'd be paying like 9,500 up front, but over 20 years, you'd be bringing in 80,000 profit for taxes. So it is a little bit upfront, but I think the percentages are the point where it would work.
And also, just clarification, we're not looking for people to build private hangars. This is to bring in businesses. It would be jobs, it would be revenue for areas. We're marketing specifically for aviation businesses. And again, I've mentioned this a couple times, because of our grant insurances, we can't develop properties that has access to the airfield unless it's an aviation business. So we're kind of restricted to bring in aviation business, but that'll work great too. I think we've got a great possibility to do that, and it's going to help the businesses at the airport.
The 9,500 number, where did that come from?
Can I include the calculation sheet?
Is that the study number?
Was that the, no, I think,
93.
yeah, that was from, no, I did it based on the percentage of the
Lease.
lease, I believe. Yeah, so it was like an 80, this one that I used as the example was 80,000 square foot lease. So I did that over 20 years, and their rate is 30 cents per thousand. And so I got to a total commission of 28.8, and then what was the 9,500? That gives me 14.4. So maybe that was for the original study.
Yeah, if you get that, half of the original would be 92.
Oh, yeah, factoring the initial investment. Yeah, I rounded that up to 9,500. Yeah, I'm sorry, that was the original study.
Okay, so we're sharing in the commission, and that would be paid up front.
Right, upon, more or less upon execution.
Successful execution of the lease.
So,
So the commission in that example was 14,400 for us, not 95. Yeah, the 95 was the initial study.
and so the 80,000, that's based on what our current tax rate is.
Current tax rate, yeah.
What the expectation would be for the assessed value.
Right.
Would that be for the initial 20-year period?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and then you've got the tax revenue, because it's not gonna be over after 20 years, right? So we would expect anybody gonna build a facility to be here 40, 50 or more.
But basically, even if we only got one development out of the study and then hiring them, we have over an $80,000. Again, using that as an example, a bunch of caveats, but it wouldn't take, it's not like we need to get like 10 businesses in here for it to break even. It will only really take.
And if there's no success in bringing anyone in, there's no cost.
Yeah, it's just the year only out the initial study.
I think the study will let you know whether it's worth pursuing. Anyway, so the expectation is that the study will come back favorably, but if they're not interested in moving forward, it very much gives you an indication.
Yeah, if they decide to move forward, it really doesn't cost us anything unless they bring in this developer.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
What do you need from us, Dave?
Just go ahead. We'll have them. Do we have a proposal? We'll just get that moving.
Page 4. All right, I'll make that motion, Beverly.
A motion's been made, and I'll second to authorize the expenditure up to $9,500 from the 2023 EDAC budget. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I'm excited to see what comes forth from this.
Thanks, David.
Thanks for all your work on it, David.
You're welcome.
You too, Michael.
Thank you, Kowalczyk. Rail Trail Committee.
As well.
So I sent an email to you, but this is the
Started.
That's the budget that they're looking
Yeah. Hey guys.
Hi.
Okay, so budget, changed from 23 going into 24. Just to quickly review, we've got some admin costs that's basically covered Beverly. She does all the meeting minutes, thank you, Beverly, for doing that. Very well. We have some equipment rental. We're looking again at an excavator with a mower on it. The digging bucket, basically keep the ditches and culverts clear, try to avoid washouts, which we'll get into later. Probably the focus next year will be on the Cheshire Trail, because we did a lot of work this year on that street, actually. Under printing copies and publicity and promotion, kind of lumps those together. This is, purchasing brochures, rack cards, things like that. We continue to pass those out. Bruce has a brochure holder down on the Ashwila Trail near him. He said he fills it quite frequently, so people do take them, get the word out. We might do a little tweak to it. It's been about 2-3 years since we modified it, so we might do some design work as well. Then the next thing, or last item, is trail maintenance. So as we do all this work, there's costs to run the equipment, like the fuel, any oils we might need, sharpening blades, replacing parts we break. So cover those, costs to basically do the operations. So that's all the line items, total $7,400, which is same as 2023. So any questions on that?
You look pretty tight on the trail maintenance. You comfortable with that?
Yeah, we are. We discussed it at our trail committee meeting, and everybody was pretty comfortable sticking with what we have. We've also received recently a donation from a Swanzey resident to do rail trail work, and we're planning to use that. Plus, we're hoping to use some money from this year to spend next spring to fix the section down in Westport. Joe's trying to help us with a culvert down there, but because of all the flooding and work he had, he won't get to it until probably another couple of weeks. We need the culvert fixed before we can do the final crushed gravel and trail surface. So we think we're gonna have a couple grand left over this year. We'd like to use next year, plus this 2,400 we got from a private resident to do that work. I also work with.
How do they carry that over, Michael?
So I spoke to Bruce, and then Mike emailed me, I emailed him back. So basically, as long as we have a signed contract or proposal, we can encumber the funds from the 2023 budget.
So Bruce is working to try to get that.
Yeah, I'll be getting hold of Joe tomorrow to get the contact information and see if they're receptive to that.
Okay. Also, I have a relationship with Suzanne Bainsley, the Cheshire County grant writer. We're actually in the middle of writing a grant to complete all the trail surface on the Cheshire Trail through the town of Swanzey. So we should be submitting that in a couple of weeks, and it would cover all that cost. So we're trying to find other ways to make this work. So I think we're okay with what we have.
You're still on the hunt at the casino as far as?
I checked into that, and if I remember right, so the collaborative the regional collaborative that I run, we couldn't use that because we're an affiliate of Bike Walk Alliance of New Hampshire, which already did a submittal. And I thought municipalities weren't eligible. So I don't think we could go through the town of Swanzey. But do you know if it's true or not?
I don't.
Yeah. So we were stuck. I could check on the municipality part again, but I thought it was only nonprofits. But I did check into it.
Could we create something for the rail trail?
Well, it kind of exists with you're saying like create like a nonprofit or something, but you have the Rail Trail Collaborative, you're saying that's already an affiliate?
That's an affiliate of the Bike Walk Alliance in New Hampshire, which that's the federal ID number that you use, which is what the casino wants. And they'll look and say, oh, this organization has already submitted.
So we need to hit them up for money.
So, but if we can form a 501c3 somehow within the town, that would be, I don't know if we can do that. That's another
It
organization.
might not be up to us, but it might be up to you.
Friends of the Rail Trail.
Swanzey Rail Trail.
Friends of the rail trail.
Yeah, something like that. It's an idea, it's like. Okay, so any other questions on budget? Okay, so rail trail update.
Well, it's kind of budget related, but it didn't really come up too much with you weren't here for Steve's presentation, but CIP committee is recommending we create a rail trail fund, capital reserve fund. So
Okay,
that would be on the warrant.
so that gets to my sustainability
Great.
handout.
Good part of the transition.
Yeah, if you have that, is that in the packet? Or-
Yes.
Yeah, I have an electronic version.
Page you got, Mike?
72.
72? Oh, yeah.
So when the CIP came up at our trail meeting, I was asking, basically learning how all this works. And where it ends up is, okay, well, what does the trail committee want for capital equipment, right? Which then leads to, okay, well, how are we gonna manage these trails going forward? So today, the way that they're maintained is a lot of volunteer labor and a lot of volunteer equipment. So Bruce is one of the guys who volunteers his equipment and his time. I volunteer some of my equipment and my time. And then we also do it through grants in this budget we have here. Right? So the question is that how we want to manage it for long term, right? Because I feel with a lot of volunteer equipment and labor, although it's low cost, it's high risk. Right? Bruce can decide to move to Florida next week, and I can decide to follow him or something. And now, you got to try to find new people to fill the gap. So I'm here today, and I came up with these different ways it could be done. So you can have all volunteer, which is item 1, which I kind of discussed. Well, item 2 is volunteer with some rental equipment, which we're kind of doing today because we use a grant like our TP grant to rent equipment, and then we run with volunteer labor. Item 3 is just rent equipment. Don't rely on other people's equipment and do volunteer labor. And then 4, you could actually contract everything, equipment, labor, the whole bit. And 5 is Swanzey owns everything, right? Swanzey has a person running the equipment, they own the equipment, they maintain the equipment, and all of that. Each item has its pros and cons, some lower cost but higher risk. And I also included, but I won't go through all the detail, what the cost would be if you went from a volunteer rental concept all the way up to a fully owned, right? I guess I'm here to just get an idea from you guys, what do you think is possible? Because then I'll take that possibility back to the Rail Trail Committee, and then we can talk about what we want to put in the CIP, right? And what the strategy is. If the strategy is, hey, we want to have Swanzey own this, have the labor and all the equipment, then we start working toward the CIP plan to buy all the equipment over multiple years. If people feel that's not possible, then we would do something less than that. Right? So I'm trying to get a feel for which direction, little advice on what direction to go here. Right? Continue on the path we're on, which is a lot of volunteer labor and equipment and some rental, and just hope for the best, or maybe start to purchase a little equipment, or whatever. So,
how does the graph on the next page correlate with what you just went through?
Yeah, so on the following pages, what I did, Bill, is I said, all right, let's start with, like, if in phase 1 we pretty much rented, everything, what would it cost, right? And what's that rental cost? And even there's maintenance with rental too, because when you're renting, you have fuel costs. You could like we broke a couple hydraulic lines this year. We had to replace them, that kind of thing. So what I tried to show in each phase is if, like phase 1, if you just rented, it would be $14,000 to rent everything that we have on here, which is tractor and brush hog and dump truck, excavator, the whole bit.
I understand that, Mike. What I'm curious about, how do these phases relate to the 5?
Yeah, so the phases is going from the rental type of concept, which is item 3, to Swanzey owner. So it's from 3 to 5. So it's moving from 3 to get to 5.
And it's just different ways to get there.
And it's just a phased approach to get there. It's not, instead of buying it all up front, we rent a little, buy a little, rent less, buy more, and eventually after phase 7, you won't go.
So the first block, the cost is, how does that relate? Because it looks like there's both a rental option, a purchase option.
Right, so in a year, like for example, in phase 1, nothing's being bought, it's all being rented.
I'm sorry, my fault. The block just before.
Oh, that's just the cost of the items. So that's just, for example, 40 horse tractor, to rent that for a month costs $1,900, $1,980.
I got it. So if you bought it, it was 50.
If you bought it, it would cost $50,000, right?
So you're kind of if I understand right, you're asking for input on this, on the phased approach versus the purchase approach. And you're also asking for advice with regard to the 1 through 5 of how we see the program proceeding. Is that fair?
I would say it's probably more on 1 through 5, because if you guys advised Swanzey owned it, then I think we would come back with a proposal on how to get there, right? My phased approach is one idea, right? I'd go back to the committee and say, here's one idea, let the committee come back with a proposal, okay? That's my thinking.
So my take is a valid one that you presented, that Bruce goes to Florida and you follow him and we have nothing.
Right.
So I'm wondering if it's something that could be researched over the course of the year.
Yeah.
With a portion of it going to DPW and a portion of it going to recreation. Because it seems to me DPW would have some of this equipment, could need some of this equipment,
right.
and have the staffing to do both what they're doing now, plus the trails.
Yeah.
And then like with Bruce's bulletin or brochure, we could be handling that through the rec department. Or something else. So there'd be a delineation of duties, and we already have the staffing in place to some extent. And there could be a weaning process so that you don't go to Florida right away, but you have the opportunity in a few years.
We'll let you take a vacation.
Because there would certainly be a learning curve with all that. And with all the progress that you guys have made, and I'm sure Michael's heard it as well, it's a strong attribute for living in Swansea.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing to me the people that know about what you all have done in the last 5 or 6 years to make these trails viable and usable.
I think it's coming along pretty nicely.
Very, very nicely. And they've done a great job.
Yeah, and I think creating the capital reserve fund is something I've been suggesting they think about, because we've done a great job developing and improving these assets, but they are assets that are going to require more and more direct costs too. So by creating the fund, that's the step. That's an important step in recognizing it's another piece of infrastructure that we don't own.
It's another piece of infrastructure, and we put a lot of work. I don't want it to fall apart. You know, if it's neglected for 3-4 years, it starts to fall apart. And so you got to stay on top of it.
Sure.
Mother Nature's out there every day trying to do what she can. So, all right, so your proposal, your advice to us is work with.
It's just off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So I think
one idea.
We should talk about it. Give you something concrete before rumors get started. And all that. It should be a thoughtful process.
All right, so I'll start with contacting Joe. With the idea that you had of, you know, some of it being, the maintenance part being in DPW, and then the rec department handling like all the marketing kind of stuff, and see how he responds and how she responds to that. We can kind of go from there.
I don't want to speak for him, but I think manpower would be a concern to take that on. You guys are putting in a lot of time out there, and I think that would.
And I have numbers around all that, because we track all our labor, so we track how many hours we did this year. And so I kind of looked at that, and then I kind of extrapolated from that. If you had a person, how many hours would it take and all that? So I could review that with Joe, and maybe he comes back and says, okay, we can do this, but you got to hire a person part-time every summer or something like that. Right? Because that's about what it would take. So, all right, great, good.
Sounds good.
You okay with status of the rail trails, what's happening? You open to hear that? Okay, so this year we had an excavator for 3 months, which we got through an RTP grant, the Recreation Trails Program grant, and we were able to do maintenance on the trail from Riley Conservation, actually right at the gate at the Riley Conservation area, all the way to Tower Lane in Westwood. Okay. We did bypass all the washouts, which is from Pine Street down to the South Polbrook Ave road crossing, which is 2 miles, maybe 1.75 miles, because of all the washouts we can't get through. Right? But we did everything else, which is mowing with the flail mower, canopy mowing, all that kind of stuff, ditch clearing, and clearing culverts and that kind of thing. I thought it went really well. We got a lot done. It looks a lot better. I thought it was a great job. So that happened there. And then on the Cheshire Trail, wasn't too much this year. I did some mowing out there, pretty much. A couple culverts got clogged, cleared those, but not as much work on that trail this year.
Where are we seeing the most activity?
Well, if you look at numbers, the Estrella Trail gets more traffic. I think because it's connected to Keene, and the Cheshire Trail's severed at Route 101. Okay, so there's no bridge over 101, and Keene has a project to fix that. So they have a project called the Transportation Heritage Trail Project that they're working on to complete the trail from Eastern Ave in Keene up to 101, put a bridge over 101, upgrade the Stone Arch Bridge to current pedestrian standards, put a bridge over Swanzey Tractor Road, and then connect with us. Okay, that's why I want to get our portion of the trail in Swanzey done, because that would encourage the DOT and everybody else involved to do the Keene project. Because, hey, Swanzey's got their part done, and downtown Keene's got their part done. How about this thing in the middle, right? So, because a lot of people don't even know, coming out of Keene, that the Cheshire Trail continues down in Swanzey. I met a couple people out there one day, and just started chatting. I said, "Oh, where'd you start?" They said, "At the beginning." I go, "Where's that?" They go, "Right at 101 where the bridge is." I said, "Well, the thing goes to Bellows Falls, right?" They didn't know that. So I think it's a big reason. And the Asheville Trails, then, Bruce did a bunch of work on it years ago, and it's in pretty good shape, especially coming out of Keene going into Swanzey. So that one, to me, gets more traffic. But I'm seeing more traffic on the Cheshire Trail now that we're fixing it. You build it, they will come.
There seems to be more traffic at all purpose now with people parking. And I assume they're using the trail because they're parking in that area.
Yeah. They put in like 3 or 6 spots for us there. And I see people using that.
There's a heavy bike traffic now this year.
On the Cheshire
I
Trail.
put a trail cam down there, I couldn't believe how many bikes were going down too. And not just during the daylight hours, after hours too. Early morning, joggers going out, and you see the lamp bobbing. So, yeah,
Great.
The COVID actually greatly increased traffic on the rail trails. And I think it's sustaining. And then I think another thing is the e-bikes. I see lots of e-bikes out there. I stop, chat with people, and a lot of people that haven't ridden a bike in years on an e-bike, and now they're out there doing it. So I think that's good. So I think that's increasing traffic as well.
It's not a motorized wheeled vehicle.
Well, according to the state, a class 1 and 2 is not a motorized bike. Right? So e-bikes class 1 and 2 are allowed on their property. But it's becoming an issue because there's a whole bunch of other, they're called PEVs, personal electric vehicles, that are just going really fast. Somebody sent me a video of one of those, those fat tire unibikes, or you stand like on 2 platforms and it's a big fat tire.
Yeah.
The manufacturer that advertised this can go 87 miles an hour. 87.
Is it death wish?
So imagine you're on 91 doing 75, heading up to, I don't know, Whitewater Junction, and this thing goes by you. Crazy. So I hope I see more regulation coming, defining these things in different classes, because there's motorcycles out there now, there's mopeds, there's all kinds of electric stuff. But because it's not well defined, we find them on trails right now. Although I've had cameras out on the Cheshire Trail, and I see cars and trucks and all kinds of stuff out there. So.
Did the bridge by Dartmouth Road get redone?
working on it now.
It's working on it now. It's actually coming out really nice.
It's over halfway done.
Yeah. It's really nice.
Can the
Taking a
excavator
while.
go across that or no?
I'm sorry?
Can the excavator go across that?
When I get done with it this time, should be able to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You should go and check it out.
They've upgraded the timbers.
I'll be dead before you have to fix that. Washouts. So as you're aware, right, we had a bunch of washouts back in July, 7 in total. The first one's parallel to Eaton Road, like it's 217 Eaton Road, where Cindy and Mike live. And then all the way down to just north of the South Holbrook Ave Road crossing. There's 7 in there. So, we started, when it first happened, we contacted the Trails Bureau. We went out and did a bunch of surveying, documented the whole thing. The state kept saying, we're not going to sure if we're going to file for FEMA or not. Well, then last week, I get a call from a Gary McAllister, who's at Department of Natural and Cultural Resources for the state, and said, Mike, FEMA wants to come out Monday, can you be there? So on that Monday, 2 people from FEMA, 2 people from New Hampshire Homeland Security and Emergency Management, this guy from DNCR, 2 people, I think, from Human Services or something. There was like 10 of us. Right? And we walked the whole thing, and I thought they were great. They looked at everyone closely. They were taking dimensions. They were writing down what would it look like, how do you want to fix it, documented that for every one of them. And the FEMA people didn't balk at all about getting it fixed, and got all the reports written. This guy from DNCR is supposed to be the project lead, and I asked the FEMA guy, what's next? He says, well, we get all the reports written and submitted, and it goes into a black hole. And I go, is that Washington? He goes, yep. So my plan is to call the DNCR guy every 2 or 3 weeks. Mike knows how I do that.
2.5 weeks.
What's the NCR?
Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, which is the state
Trails Bureau.
which is a state department, and under them is the Trails Bureau, and I think the Parks Department and other departments.
Government submitted changed it about 3 years ago.
So there's hope that FEMA will help pay to fix these washouts, and some of them are pretty significant.
So I don't even want to ask, but what does that mean for our possible reallocation of the tax grant?
Oh, I still got to fix the trail.
Okay, so still.
So FEMA's only going to fix the washouts. They're not going to fix the trail,
So
from
stick with
Pine
those
Street.
segments that we had.
And I say
All
we
right,
still stick with what we're,
Okay, good.
no change there.
No more changes.
Yeah, no more changes. So I'll
Has
keep
there
you
been
abreast.
contact with Jean Shaheen's office?
I think when this all started, she got contacted. I contacted our local reps. There was a lot of noise made early. Chris Coates got involved, how are we gonna fix this, all that kind of stuff. But that was back when nobody knew if the state was even gonna contact FEMA. And the reason they were hesitating is they've gotten burned in the past. They fixed stuff and never got reimbursed. They kept being asked to provide more information, and finally said, we just can't keep putting our resources out here doing this, right? But something must have happened, because all of a sudden I get a call and boom, we're out there.
I wonder if Maggie's office would be receptive, since they were here back in July.
Oh, you mean contact again and just?
Well, with regard to what you just did with the group of 10 and the black hole and all of that, whether they could shed some
Help
light
push
on
it along a little bit? Yeah, possibly. I don't see how it would hurt.
Invite them for the ribbon cutting,
What of the
for
washout?
the redone FEMA rail trail. And when they call FEMA and say, we're going to this ribbon cutting.
Yeah, there you go.
Just schedule the ribbon cutting
Let's get to the ribbon cutting now.
for next summer sometime.
All right, that's it for Bruce. Anything else you can think of?
Just that the one by the substation, it looks like the Eversource may fix that one.
Yeah,
Nice.
sure.
Because they've got so much interest right there.
Yep.
Right adjacent, actually on the trail, but anyway, they got so much interest there that they would impede their trying to fix something that they had to get down.
Right. So,
How close is,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
I think they're looking to fix that. and improve it so that it won't keep, this is like the fourth time.
Sure.
This is,
Second time in 2 or 3 years, right?
yep, I rebuilt it once, yeah, for the grant.
Is the trail, Ashwilla Trail accessible from the airport?
From the airport, no.
No.
I mean, you gotta get on 32 and then on Sawyer's Crossing and, you know, that type of thing, cross the bridge. You know,
Causeway Road.
and get on there.
Do you remember the old bike ped committee that Steve, I think it was last name, headed up, he was chairman of it? We actually had a plan of, and somewhat permission from the airport to go down alongside the fence and then go and come out on the old Causeway Road and come up. But he left and I kind of fell through.
I only asked because at the airport meeting, one of the points of discussion was bringing up photos to put on the website that show people walking and snapping bird pictures and all that, and I didn't know how close we were to it. As to whether
Well, there
we
could
had
be something there. I mean, there's been talk on and off, how do we connect
Connect the trails.
the two trails, east to west. There's no simple path, but one of them is what Bruce is saying, go by the southern part of the airport and around and then come out. I think there's a bridge got to be put over the river.
Yes.
To come out on Causeway, which then is pretty close to the trail, you know, by the Crescent Bridge.
We're gonna have to figure a way over
So,
near there anyway, to have the sidewalk continue down to the park for the boat landing. Somehow we gotta get people that are just dead ending there across.
oh, yeah, right, yeah, we gotta get over that bridge with pedestrian. If there's airport work going on now that involves, that would be open to, you know, bike and pedestrian, I'd be willing to talk to somebody about that. To get it.
I don't know that there is, this was more of a marketing concept. And
Yeah,
I was trying to figure a way to bring Swanzey into it
yeah,
with what you all are working
yeah, that would be great if we could get through there. Even if we could just get to 32 from the Ashwilla Trail going east. Because there is that road there, what's that, class 6
Causeway
road?
Road.
No, class 6 road on the east side by the mobile station.
Oh, Sycamore Hill?
Sycamore Hill, you go up there, then you gotta kind of cut through the woods a little bit, then you end up on, what is it, Fox Run or Sugar Hill on the other side, and then you can get onto the Cheshire Trail from there. There is a way.
on. Take your life in your hands, there is a way.
Cross Route 10, definitely.
But it's not an easy way.
Safford Drive sidewalk.
A lot of people walk out there even without it. Right?
Yeah, a lot of people do walk, because I bike that a lot.
I know, I proposed that when they were doing that construction, why didn't they put a sidewalk in right at the same time? But
Well, that housing that's going in there now, in the corner, does that get up, is that gonna back up to the fairgrounds? Is it on that?
Close.
Could there be pedestrian through that and come out at the fairgrounds?
And part of their plans was to have some trails in there around the thing for their residents to walk. So
Yeah, you know, that's an idea. So maybe something like that would be cool. Because once you get to the all-purpose storage, the trail's right there.
Right.
And maybe then we have to just put a crosswalk or something.
Good luck.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with that.
No, seriously, you think some of these things we've been tilting at are bad, trying to get a crosswalk with it
Yeah, I know.
across the state highway?
Thank you.
Okay, all
Thank you
set?
very much.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Have a good evening.
Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
you.
Thanks, Bruce.
I need some winter biking recommendations.
Oh, I have.
That's what you do. Okay, good.
Moving on to new business, the Grange Hall window replacement.
Yes, and Bill called me, I apologize, I didn't connect with Mike until later, but Bill asked if Mr. Jasmine was aware of this concept, and he was. Basically, this aspect is part of the approach, which I think is more or less consistent to what we've been doing the last couple of years, of trying to keep the building dry. So that means windows, you know, we've done some of the doors and some of that stuff, it means drainage around the building. So at this point, we're only looking to apply for the grant. We're not actually, spending any money or doing any work, but if we don't want to apply for the grant, then just say, well, we really don't want to replace the windows or something. So he is aware of it. He's helping with the quote. He's involved.
Does it fit in with the overall plan that he has with regard to
Yes.
structural integrity and everything else? And Sly's discussion about moving it back.
I think I would say replacing the windows is irrelevant to moving it back, whether we move it or not. It's definitely gonna need new windows, no matter what we do, so.
But it does have a lot to do with the future disposition of the building.
How so?
Well, it's the camel's nose under the tent. At some point, you get to the point where you've got no choice but to rehab the building. I don't know that discussion is.
That would be a great discussion to happen.
Well, but if you invest the money into the grants, and what obligation does the grant put on the restoration of the building? And then at this point, we don't know the number to do it. Really hasn't gone to the body politic, so to speak. The reason I asked was it seemed premature that there hasn't been a final decision about renovating the building.
That's correct.
And that is how this building got going, because they had the windows all redone with the double glazing. So I'm just throwing it out there.
No, I don't disagree. I think I'm serious when I say I'd love for that discussion to happen, because I would love for that discussion to happen. So to make sure we know we're going in the right direction. But now at this point, they're trying to get grants, which I think is what we would want. Again, assuming we want to rehab the building. If that's not the case, that's fine too, but we need the board to tell us that. So it's existing funds that are in there.
I just don't think the board is going to do that. I think the town's got to get behind. This is not one where the town's going to put in a couple $100,000 and Pete Johnson's going to pull $1 million out of the air. This is one where we don't have anybody pulling money out of the air. This is one that this is going to fall on the taxpayers based on how it's currently going. So if it's going to fall on the taxpayers, they're looking at least 7, if not 800 or more to do it. And we haven't had that discussion. I'm sure not going to recommend it. I'm not going there. It's one thing to have my wife tell me we should be keeping our town buildings in good shape and all that, because she looks at the cosmetics and you put a coat of paint on, it looks good. But Mike's expressed significant concern about the structural integrity of the building and what needs to be done to secure it. I just think it's premature, but if applying for the grant doesn't obligate us to anything, then I'll certainly be supportive of that. But I'm not gonna be a person sitting on the board recommending to you and your staff that we go ahead and rehab that building without the town having an opportunity to weigh in and understand what the obligation is gonna be.
I believe we've tried to have those opportunities by having multiple warrant articles specific to this property.
Yeah, well, let's do what I mistakenly.
You jumped out last time.
I did. Well, let's go for a $250,000 warrant article. Let's make it real. See if people want to do it. We did that with the Carpenter home, not 250, but we did it with the Carpenter home. We stood up in front of the body and explained why we were doing it with the Carpenter home and what we thought the end result would be. I don't know about you, but I have no idea what the end result would be with the Grange. I really don't. I don't agree with what we're doing here. I think this should be a fully rentable space. And if there's an opportunity for people to rent it, I think it should be income producing. I don't think it should be a town hall function. So I understand we're getting there, but we need to get to the point where this building is paying for itself and building reserves so that it can continue to pay for itself, in my opinion. And that's the way I would feel about the Grange. I just think it's a hell of an obligation.
Sounds like we should have the Grange Hall committee next week.
Well, no, I don't. That might be the way to go.
Right.
I'm not poo-pooing it. I'd like to see what happens with the Wilcox School and whether we're buying it or we get it or it goes to some other entity. Because the Wilcox School, for me, would drive a lot with the Grange because it provides parking. Maybe the Grange moves over to the Wilcox School. because it would, land, because it would give more land for more uses for the Grange. But I'm just repeating myself, but
I have no dog in this fight.
this has been
for
a
the record.
conundrum for us ever since Jerry Bell didn't swing his boom. If he'd have swung his boom back in '93, we wouldn't be having this discussion. Just like if Larry Waters hadn't called in the fire in town hall, we wouldn't be having that discussion either. So, those things happened, and obviously, or didn't happen. But if all we're doing is going along with it to file the grant, for the grant, I'd be in support of that.
Community town funds would already be in the Grange Hall Capital Reserve Fund, so it's not any new appropriation. It's funds that are for that purpose, so I mean, they could be, it could be, if we said, no, we don't want to spend any money in the building, they could go back to the general fund if the voters approve that, but it's not a new appropriation, it's not new CIP funding for next year.
I think it was. I thought there was one that was for
Remember the
exterior.
weatherization, the
It
bottom
was like
of the
to
door.
keep the window that had fallen out, put that,
Fix the
and take the
window.
doors.
I thought there was some paint for the front.
We can do that if you want, I think that, I don't know.
And it needs a roof too, right?
What's that?
Has that roof leak? It needs a,
It needs everything, no, seriously.
a five.
All right, Beverly, I'll make that motion.
Second, to allow the Grange Hall Advisory Committee and Swanzey Preservation Society to apply for the 1772 Foundation and Preservation Alliance grant. Replace the windows at Grange Hall. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Assignment of general assessing contract. Dave Marizal.
So Dave Marizov is going back to his former DBA, Marizov Assessing from M&M Assessing is having a business transition. So our statistical update, which would be next year, we don't have a current contract for that, so we don't need to do an assignment. But we would need to assign our general assessing, which was maybe a 5-year contract. So I am seeking that authorization to assign.
And you're pleased with the current performance, the way it's going?
Yes, overall.
I'll make the motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. December meeting schedule.
I suggested we could do the first 3 or every other. I suggested at least no meeting the week between Christmas and New Year. Sometimes we meet if we have like a last minute budget item or need to get ready for the posting of the public hearings, but I think we can probably get by with 2 or maybe the 13th if we end up needing it, but I think 2 meetings we'll probably be able to wrap things up. 16th, 20th? 13th as needed?
Yeah.
Consideration of old business.
I have none at this time.
Administrative update.
Nothing beyond I think I updated the various projects, but we're hoping to get the Upper Wilson Pond Dam project out to bid at the end of this week, so that'll be it's moving forward. Had a call with council and engineers about easements, so we're going forward as planned on that.
Any non-public sessions?
I do not have any.
I just have a question about the allocation. Sure. Is that money, the 52,000, from DOT, is that already been?
Has not been spent, has not been committed, and they recommend and request that we don't offset by, reducing something else. So they'd like that to be additional work, so it'd be something we maybe take a project from a future year and CIP or something, and move it out.
So the reason I was asking was because of their line, that it is available.
We have received it, I believe.
We have received it,
Yeah.
but we shouldn't allocate it yet.
I think we should, as part of when we go out to bid for road work next year.
Does that help, any of the CIPC road rehab?
It does in the big picture, yes. And I think we have another, I don't know if the amount is similar, which is why I don't want to quote it, but we have a separate amount for bridges, so I mentioned with Steve was here, so certainly helpful.
Good. One more bite of the apple, anybody? Public input while we're still here? Or we came back?
Is it cold out there? You what?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
nice.
So I'm a member of the New Hampshire Rail Trail Coalition, and they did a calendar
Very nice.
for 2024. So rail trails across the state, so enjoy.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
Very good.
Good night.
Did you already get one?
No,
You want one?
sure.
I get a
Motion
calendar.
to adjourn?
You did?
Second.
Oh,
All in favor? Aye. We're done. Thank you.
The picture.
Puppy's out for a while.